On today's episode of Locked On Avalanche, the Avs with 2 in a row, Kyle. That's a win streak and a goalie save percentage above 900. What is going on in the world? Let's talk about it. New episode of Locked On Avalanche coming at you.
Your Locked On Avalanche, your daily podcast on the Colorado Avalanche. Part of the Locked On Podcast Network. Your team every day.
All right, everybody, welcome to the Locked On Avalanche podcast, part of the Locked On Podcast Network, your team every day. I'm your host, Chris Maselli. With me, as always, is Mr. Shaggy Von Doom, Kyle Sullivan. Thank you for tuning in and making it your first listen of the day. Always appreciated. Make sure you're following us on our social media outlets, LOPN_Avalanche on Twitter, X, Locked On Avalanche on Instagram and Threads. Questions, comments, concerns, and opinions, lockedonavalanche@gmail.com. And follow us on our YouTube channel. Hit subscribe, get notified when a new show goes live, and make sure you subscribe to our subtext as well. Link to that's in the show notes below, because when you do, you chat with Kyle and I one-on-one, get your opinion, everything Avalanche related, which we share on this very podcast. I cannot go another second longer without wishing the junior Von Doom a very happy birthday over at the Sullivan household. Like you said, if you follow Kyle on social media, he is a father to a teenager now.
I'm old. I'm so old.
Oh, boy. Did he have a good day? What did he do?
Yeah, he's had a double party. He's had 2 days of parties and a weekend. So he's been partying for 4 days and overcoming sickness, but he's been having the time of his life.
Good. So happy birthday to Colin, probably our number one fan. I would assume. Yeah.
Happy birthday, Bubs.
Yeah. So, all right. As we dive into this episode, sir, we had some issues yesterday, so we didn't get to talk about the Sharks game. We'll talk about that. We'll get to some goalie talk, because that's fun in Avalanche world, right? So why not? But it's necessary.
Conversations need to be had.
Yeah, it's necessary. So we'll get to that a little bit later, but let's just kind of go over this Sharks game. Obviously, the Avalanche win this thing. It's their second win in a row, 4-1 in San Jose. Overall, I just thought this was kind of like I don't want to use the word boring, but it wasn't like this over the top exciting game that you kind of typically see from an Avalanche team, just because it's kind of how they're built. They're kind of built on giving you just kind of like exciting hockey, just with all the up and down and speed that they have. And I don't know what it was, man. I just watched this game. Like, I just felt like one of those games where they were just like in control of it. And you felt like if they needed to kick it up a notch, Emerald style, they could. And they never really needed to. And they were just in command. And they knew they were the better team. What was your take on it? I don't know. It's just a weird win for me. Just watching this thing.
Yeah, and I get you. And I thought about that in the second period, because I think that's where the steam was kind of let out of that game.
Penalties.
The conga line to the penalty box was it really ruined it. And watching it, I was like, oh, come on, let's just get through this game. To which I remembered they just lost 4 in a row.
Right.
They won 1, and we're already now back to let's just get through this game. We know, like, it's already, we've erased the 4-game losing streak. This team is, the doom and gloom is over. No, it's nice to be back in that little comfortability, but I mean, if that second period didn't happen and they would have kind of mirrored periods 1 and 3, we would have had one of those. The Avalanche are back; they're building on this, but that second period really took the wind out of the sails of momentum.
Absolutely. I mean, and when you had, would they have like 13 minutes of penalties, I think?
I think the Avs had 4 penalties at the end of the game, and the Sharks had 5. So, I mean, that's a lot of.
And well, some of them were, you had fighting and stuff like that. So, and there was double minors. So, I'm looking at time on it. Nathan McKinnon had exactly 20 minutes of ice time. Okay, I mean, it's just usually a little bit higher than that. And, when you have that many penalties, he's off the ice.
Mm-hmm.
And so is Mikko Rantanen. So, like, those two guys are not on the ice when you're constantly going to the box. Yeah, the second period was bad.
Mm-hmm.
Battle around. Ugly. How many shots on goal did they have? Once again, NHL.com is not working. So I'm kind of...
it's undisciplined is really what it is. And
What,
while you're
NHL.com or the Avalanche?
no, like those penalties, and while you're looking at that stat, I also
Yeah.
want to throw in. We talk about how boring that game was. You had a lead from wire to wire, and if
Mhm.
you want to talk about minutes, this is where it comes into play, and utilizing that fourth line and getting some more third line looks and saving that top line that you have already had to heavily rely on through your first 5 games. You get up on this game and play a disciplined game of hockey, Nathan McKinnon, Cale Makar, and Miko could get a little bit of a shift off here and there.
Yeah. Yeah, definitely. I don't know where it is. It's not on here. It doesn't matter. They just didn't have a lot. Like they were the team in control in the first. Well, I want to say like the game started off just kind of, and there is like some feeling out period and things like that. And then the Avs got a power play and they scored on it, and I felt like that was so neat. Like that kind of just like kickstarted them. They got the Ross Colton goal. We'll talk about him in a second too. But I just thought that the beginning of this game was just very just a slog and not much going on. You really didn't have a lot of shots on goal in the early stages. But then they got that power play and scored on it. And you know, that's it's an endorphin booster right there.
Yep.
So you just get that. And then the first period ended pretty well. You get into the second period, and then third period, you're just kind of in command and you just don't give anything up. You know, you do give up a goal. And we'll talk about obviously goalies a little bit later as well. But I just like I'm not unhappy with the game because you won it and you were in command. But this was almost like a defensive. If you don't like defense in like football, those games are just boring to you. And this was more of like a defensive game. And yeah, I know they scored 4. One was an empty netter, but I just thought this was more of a defensive game, which I'm okay with. I'm okay with for a hockey game because I love a good 1-0 game where goalies are just standing on their heads. But I don't know, there was just a different vibe in this game where it was if I'm going to show someone who's just getting into hockey, I'm not going to show them this game because they might be like, what's kind of going on here? You did have some fights and you did have some good hits, but just was not. I think if I'm gonna power rank all 82 games for the Avalanche this year, this one's going to be low on the list, even though it's a win. And I know that's all that really matters is you got the 2 points. Doesn't matter how you get them, especially with the Avalanche after starting with those 4 losses. You just want to get in the win column, and that's what they did. So while I'm sitting here whining and complaining about the style of game and how it was from the viewer perspective, they don't care about that stuff. No. They got the win. Their goalie played well. You had some individual players that played well, which we'll get to. End of story.
And see, I think I took a little bit of a different vibe away from, and I think it was, and we'll talk about in a minute, Ross Colton and goal number 2. The vibe, and you even heard it in Miko's interview, I believe in the second intermission. That second goal, it felt like, of course, like you got that goal and it's, oh yeah, of course we got, yeah, sure. Mm-hmm. And you had that feeling of course we're up on the Sharks. And it's nice to have that feeling again as a Colorado Avalanche fan for everything how the season started, where they've been playing from behind and every goal they would score 2. Like this one, to get that second one and be in control, like what we've been saying during the whole losing streak, get out ahead and play from the lead. And the Avs did that. And that second goal, you're just, it kind of took it out because you went back to, of course we should be winning this game. Of course we should have this goal. And the Avs are starting to believe in themselves a little bit. And that's really good from where it was individual efforts. It feels like the team is buying in and you could really see it and it's comfortable, which is nice.
Yeah. I mean, like they have been improving since game 1.
Yep.
And that's really when you listen to Jared Bednar and you kind of like nitpick and peel apart his words like we do oh so well, in the media world. But he, I fully believe him when he says like, things are getting better, even when they were losing. Okay, like we're not giving up 8 goals anymore. We're giving up 6, but things are improving. The goalie play is improving. Forwards are doing what they want them to do. We're back checking better. So yeah, it is a process. It is a process, and it is a long haul. And a lot of times we get way too focused on the start. I know we did, and I get that. I understand why we did that. but coaches are a different breed and they look at things a lot different. And to look at it of the fact of like, this is a long haul. And as long as we keep showing improvement, I'm fine. We'll get to where we got to go. If we don't show improvement, that's where the concern is. So even though, Georgiev was started off horrible and, 4 losses in a row, I get that. He's looking at it as, well, the next game was better than the last game. And that goes team wide, not just for the goalies. So, and if they're all, kind of buying, like you said, buying in, they know what to expect. And if they're slowly making progress to that, they will eventually get there. And you can see, and I know the last couple of games have not been against great opponents, but you always got to beat those teams. And they're professionals too. And they're showing up and they're doing the best that they can. You got to beat those teams. And I think the Avalanche are, you need these games every once in a while to get back on track. It seems like the Avalanche are. We'll see where they do on Tuesday against Seattle. So make it 3 in a row, and then you're right back into the thick of things. You mentioned Ross Colton. We have to talk about him. So let's talk about him and some other Avalanche players in this game that did pretty well. So let's talk about that right after this. We are going to hear from FanDuel, and NFL fans, you can start this season with a big return over at FanDuel, which is, of course, America's #1 sports book. So when you get a hunch in the middle of the game, you can check out the latest stats, view live play-by-play, and so much more on the same page where you place your bets. You'll get started with $200 in bonus bets guaranteed when you place your first $5 bet. That's right. All you got to do is place a $5 bet, and you have $200 in bonus bets in your account guaranteed. Just go over to FanDuel.com, sign up today. FanDuel.com, America's #1 sportsbook. Mr. Ross Colton is on a roll. 6 goals so far this season, which I believe is second in the league, sir, which is just bizarre when you look at the leaders for goals. You got Kucherov at #1 with 7, and then you have 3 guys in second with 6. Ross Colton being one of them, up there with Cole Caulfield and Artemi Panarin. He's rolling. And when I always say like that top line of McKinnon and McKinnon and Mikko is like, the Denver Broncos of the late 90s and early 2000s with running backs. You could put anybody back there, and the offensive line that they had and the scheme that they had, you got a 1,000-yard rusher. It's kind of like that on this top line. You can put anybody with, come on, Mikko Rantanen and Nathan McKinnon, 2 of the best guys in the league. I could go in there and have 6 goals at this stage in the game. No, I could not. Totally could not. But it just speaks to those 2 guys require so much attention. And I'm not taking away from Ross Colton. Like he's skilled offensively. He's a very good player. He's an exciting player. I love having him on this team. And he's perfect for if you need to bump him up to a top line, he can handle himself there. And he is showing you that. And yeah, he had those 2 goals back to back. He came within a hat trick 2 or 3 other times.
Yeah.
There was one that I remember just trickled right by the net. He should have had a hat, and they were trying like heck when that was an empty netter to get him that hat trick, but he's playing well. He's obviously playing well right now, and it's fun to watch.
No, he's selfish as sin. He only has 1 assist. What are you talking about?
I know, right? Come on now.
No, but this is what you want to see. And there was a lot of hype coming into the season about that Roaring 20s line. And it's interesting to see the evolution of the Roaring 20s. Like Ross Colton is really taking a step up. Miles Wood has speed that I haven't seen in honestly all year.
Speed, man. Yeah.
He's really been showing the speed off, where he went from like a crazy cannonball last year to he's got a motor. So if you're seeing like Colton take that, like we talked about it doing the grades, what does it look like with a full off season? Comfortable Avalanche system. Ross Colton has kicked it into another gear, and it's a welcome surprise, and it alleviates the pressure from those big names from having to score every single night.
Yeah, and he knows what to like. He's playing that like bumper spot in the in the power play, and he's got a nice shot. He's got a really good release, and he's gonna, if you play that spot, you have Nathan McKinnon, Mikko Rantanen, and sometimes Cale Makar finding you in that. They will find you. You just have to find the soft spots and just settle in, and they will get it to you. And you got to be able to come through and rip them home. And he's doing that right now. Now, it's going to be, I don't want to go too far ahead because some people are like, oh, is this our new top line? I mean, we know who's not playing right now.
Mm-hmm.
And you're playing the hot hand.
Yep.
And I don't really feel like, Colton is that guy that can keep this up for the duration of a season, but who knows, man? Like, you're playing with those guys. Your slumps are not going to be as long as they would be if you're playing your normal spot as the 3C. You know what I mean? So, but when you get like an Arturi Lehkonen who comes back, or Jonathan Drouin who comes back, even Gabe Landeskog whenever he might come back, maybe not Landeskog, maybe they ease him into a second or third line. Who knows with him? But with Lehkonen, I mean, those are your guns, right? And again, not to say that Colton can't handle it. I don't know. Maybe this is why I put all this stuff on Bednar. It'd be interesting to see if Colton can continue this, because you're going to still have a handful of games where he's probably going to be the guy right now at the top line. And if he continues to show you this stuff, how do you bump him down when certain guys return? If things are rolling, I don't know. It's a rolling 20s and a 90 if it's on the top line.
And and the name we haven't mentioned, Nichushkin, is back in Denver, and he is training.
Yeah,
and that calendar date is coming closer by the day. So this roster, the hands are getting hot, and you have hotter hands coming in too. So does Ross want to keep this spot? Because we know he was challenged. He was mentioned as a trade target before free agency last year. Like, he likes where he is, and he's going to make it really difficult for a Jonathan Drouin coming back from IR to claim his spot. Does he need some time to come back in? It's going to be a wealth of riches coming up in the next couple of weeks, but you want to see Ross continue this tonight in the game and really continue this throughout the week.
I always said it with Burakovsky. When Burakovsky was on the Avalanche, he would just look like, dude, this guy's a 40-goal scorer.
Yeah.
And then you just wouldn't hear from him for games at a time. What happens when Colton, what happens when you're on a hot streak like this and then you don't score for like 2 games?
Yep.
On the top line. I'm not saying this when he's, on a third line. When you're on the top line, because you're expected to do what you're supposed to do, what you are doing on a top line, and you're going to be there for a little while. If you don't score for the next couple of games, how do you respond? So I think all that's going to come into play when the decisions need to be made. Decisions need to be made. I don't know. Like, I love the guy. He's one of my favorite guys on the team. Is his role consistently going to be at a top line with how much talent this team has? I don't see it. But right now, I don't care. He's in control right now, and you run with that for as long as you possibly can. This is what you wanted, man. This is when you knew you were going to be down all these guys. Who are the guys that are going to step up right now? That there's a handful of guys that are doing it, a few guys that are doing it. Ross Colton, Middlestat is, but he's doing what we're expecting him to do. Colton is that guy that's right now putting in the work when the guys that you have out are not back yet.
And it was the comfortable thing to say, just keep him on the Roaring 20s line and let them build. Now it seems like a disservice because he feels like a top 6 forward right now, and you want to keep him continuing on with that. So I like this evolution in his game, and I want to see it be consistent.
On the flip side of that is Callum Richie, who I feel like you're seeing, this is a rookie learning.
Yep.
Right. I don't think he's playing poorly. And he's not out there. He's not giving up like terrible goals. I don't feel like he's not doing anything terribly wrong, but he's not doing anything that's really stepping up and kind of bumping him up to Kovalenko status, where right now that Kovalenko is just I continue to just sing his praises. I feel like he is playing phenomenal. Richie, I think you're seeing, okay, like we're getting to close to those 9 games. If today was if we had to make the decision, if that was the 9th game, I probably would be sending him back and not to anything, because like if you keep him, you got to keep him for the whole year. Do you want to do that right now? And that's the downside of it only being 9 games, because you don't have a ton to go on. But you could tell maybe another year of seasoning might do him well, because he got off to a pretty good start and it's kind of tailored off a little bit. And again, I don't want to say that he's playing poorly, but what they need from him, it's just not there yet, and that's okay. He's so young, and he's got he's only 19 years old. He's got a long way to go. But you wanted him to be that guy that the young rookie that you threw in there that just ran with it, which is so difficult for so many of these guys to do. Doesn't seem like he's there yet, but you see it in glimpses. And I think that's where that maybe another year, go back to the OHL, and we'll see what happens next year.
Yeah, I completely agree with you. It's probably another, let him get a little bit more season. Like, it was a great camp.
Yeah.
Interesting preseason. And I think it's kind of, the game is starting to get faster than him, with everybody getting their legs. But that's no fault to him. That's good. Go take your time. Like, the ascension of Kovalenko has been one thing. Hey, that forehand backhand by Kiviranta for the goal before the empty netter. Like,
beautiful
that shows
pass too there.
We're talking about how crowded it's going to be when everybody starts coming back. Kiviranta is making it hard not to be on that roster too. So with names like that, like Callum Richie, go take your time. This isn't saying, hey, you're not doing a great job. You can do better, and we're going to go refine that and let this team be. But I mean, it's not doom and gloom. I like where he is, but it could be better.
Yeah, I think so. So, but he's got a few more games to go. So let's see what's going to happen there. And then just overall, you look at the point standings right now in the league, and you have tied for first right now is Cale Makar overall with 12 points. He's tied with Reinhart and Panarin. And then you have McKinnon and Rantanen are second with 11. So those are your horses. Those are your 3 guys, and they're all right up there. I think McKinnon leads in assists. Yeah, he's got 10 assists, which leads the league. They knew that they needed to come out and set the tone. We've been saying that even with the losses, the offense was fine.
Yep.
The offense was fine. The numbers are backing it up. The defense and the goalie position need to kind of pick it up, and it seems like it slowly is. Yeah, go ahead.
Keep Ludwig in the lineup, please.
Keep who?
Ludwig.
Oh, yeah.
He's been incredible. Like, he was just a pickup because we talked about his size and what he could possibly be. No, he is a prototypical Avalanche defender, and I love his play.
I like him. Yep. I like him a lot. Along with Malinsky. I think Malinsky is continuing to play well too. But we mentioned those goalies. Justus Annunen was in. You have Kaapo Kähkönen waiting in the wings. What are we doing here with the goalie situations? Talk about Justus's play against San Jose, and what are we doing next? We'll talk about that after this. Let's hear from Indeed, because we are driven by the search for better. But when it comes to hiring, the best way to search for a candidate isn't to search at all. And if you need to hire, you need Indeed, which Indeed is your matching and hiring platform with over 350 million global monthly visitors, according to Indeed data, and a matching engine that helps you find quality candidates fast. So ditch the busy work and use Indeed for scheduling, screening, and messaging so you can connect with candidates faster. And Indeed doesn't just help you hire faster. 93% of employers agree that Indeed delivers the highest quality matches compared to other job sites, according to a recent Indeed survey. So join more than 3.5 million businesses worldwide that use Indeed to hire great talent fast. And listeners of Locked On Avalanche get a $75 sponsored job credit to get your jobs more visibility at Indeed.com/locked-on. Just go to Indeed.com/locked-on right now and support this very podcast by saying you heard about Indeed on Locked On Avalanche. So Indeed.com/locked-on. Terms and conditions apply. Because if you need to hire, then you need Indeed. Justus Annunen got his first start of the season. And while it's an opponent that is not really expected to do much this year, it's still an opponent that you have to face and shut down. And I thought he did. He only gave up the singular goal, which was a really nice shot. Who scored that for the? I don't have it in front of me.
It went like armpit.
Yeah, no, it was on a power play.
Yeah.
William Eklund scored it. And he just roofed it on, just really in tight. It was a tough to stop that one, but everything else was good. I give a lot of credit to the defense. I thought they kept his sight lines open so he could really see where these pucks were coming from. Not a lot of high danger chances. I think he only had 2 against, 2 high danger attempts. But yeah, man, it's a good, when your goalie is a 962 save percentage, that's a number that you haven't seen a lot in Avalanche world.
Oh.
So I thought he did well.
And now it makes the conversation a little bit more difficult, because now what do you do next going into tonight's game against Seattle? And then you have the ever hot Utah Hockey Club. Calm down, Chris. We're talking about Utah.
Yeah.
But what do you do with these situations? And you talk about like the quality of play, like it's the Sharks. And now we're comfortable now. The Avs are back winning. It's like, oh yeah, it's the Sharks. You should be getting 25 out of 26 saves. No.
Yeah.
But that hasn't been the case against like Anaheim and Columbus and the Islanders. So like goalie play, it doesn't matter the quality of opponent. You're letting everything in. Justus stood up, made good plays, and you could tell, I think that has something to do with that comfortable factor, that momentum of, hey, we had 6 shots and only 1 at this point has gone in. Yeah. And like, it's having that, I guess, confidence in your goalie is paying off, to which I would, honestly, if I was Bednar, I would stick him right back in the net tonight.
Annunen?
Mm-hmm.
See, first of all, San Jose had 26 shots on goal.
Mm-hmm.
And I don't care if you are expected to be, competing for the number 1 overall pick. There are 26 shots on goal by NHL players.
Mm-hmm.
These are not 26 shots on goal that are just effortlessly thrown towards. These guys can hit slap shots as hard as Colorado Avalanche players can hit slap shots, and can pick corners the same way Colorado Avalanche players can pick corners. There's more to it as to why this team is bad. It's not because they can't shoot the puck, right? Yeah. So when you're a goalie, it doesn't matter if you're going up against the best team in the league or the worst team in the league. Shots are shots. Now it's the quality of shots, and that boils down to how defense plays in front of you as well. So he got 26 shots thrown at him, and he saved 25 of them. That's good no matter who you're playing against. What do you do in this game? I know you said you put him right back out there. I mean, there are so many ways you could go on this. Because you don't want to keep Georgiev out for so long either. And you also need to give Kakkonen a play here. So this just brings in the questions like, why did you even go get him? Well, because what do you do? Like I could make an argument for any one of these 3 guys to play in this game against Seattle. I can make the argument. It was like, okay, Annunen, that was your one game to show what you can do. Now Kakkonen, you're up next. You're up against Seattle, and both of you guys are getting a 1 game. Show me what you can do, and then for the 3rd game, we'll go to Georgiev against Utah and figure out what we're going to do. But it's like, if Kakkonen plays poorly, I mean, I guess you could just throw him right back on the waiver wire and you gave him a 1 game tryout. That doesn't really make much sense to me. So I don't know, man. I don't know where they're going to go with this.
This is where I would roll Justus back against Seattle. See if this 962 is sustainable. See if you could do it back to back. because you're talking about quality shots from like these are NHLers.
Mm-hmm.
Georgiev let 3 on 9 shots, 3 goals
Right.
on 9 shots. And we're talking about just 1 going in on Eustace. Okay, that's nice. Now do it against Seattle. They're semi-hot. They're not playing too shabby. Let's see what you do. And you know what? I would give Georgiev the start against Utah, and then I would back him up with Kakkonen.
Oh, have him be the back. Yeah. And then you're, because then you're not playing, a game against Utah's Thursday.
Mm-hmm.
And then you are not playing until Sunday. You're at home against Ottawa.
And it gives you some really good ideas. You've seen all 3 of them. See if Eustace is sustainable. If this is just a San Jose problem, or a Eustace is actually this good problem, then you roll Georgiev out there with some rest and wants to challenge for his job after seeing what his backup's doing.
Mm-hmm.
And then have Kakkonen just kind of go out there if everything goes wrong. And then you can make a move if you have to over the weekend.
Yeah, but you're not giving Kakkonen any start to see if he's even worthy of a backup. Like that's the downside. If you don't play him at all, I think you got to play. Maybe you have 3 road games here. Maybe play with them 1 each. Maybe you do that. I mean, I still think they're going with Georgiev. I still think that's the guy that they're gonna ride. And this is really about who's the backup, because you can't carry 3. You can't. Technically you can, but it just doesn't make any sense to do that. It also doesn't make sense to just award Kakkonen the backup position without proving anything for this team. Where Eustace went out, he had a good game, and you have to waive Eustace. You can't throw him right back down to the HL. Like he is waiver eligible, and if you play him, 2 games in a row and he does pretty well, that's why I think you just throw. He just put Kakkonen back up on waivers. He didn't do anything with him.
Well, then you know what? I agree with that. If it's a hot game against Seattle and he gives another 1, maybe 2 goal night against Seattle, Kakkonen's on the wire. Georgiev.
It just doesn't make. Then why did you do the move?
Well,
look
at the first 4 games. I would have got anybody with a pulse.
Right. No, I think that is why they pulled the trigger on it. But I think it would benefit them to at least give him a game, just to see what they got. Give Georgiev another night off, and then give him the home game, or no, give him the Utah game. Or if you want to use all 3 of these, hey, if both of them play well, then you use that 3rd game to, all right, who played. What would you do if you played? Okay, Anderson played the Sharks game, played well. If Kakkonen goes out, if say he's the starter against Seattle and he plays well, and then do you use the hockey club game as like go back to Eustace and say do it again, and then we'll give you the backup role back to you, and then waive Kakkonen? There's so many different scenarios you can do here, and I can't figure out which one is the best.
Well, whatever it is, it's Eustace and Kakkonen. You're wanting to see what you get out of them, and all of this, it needs to be done to Georgiev, saying, "Hey, you have to step up because this is what's behind you." And look at how fun the Sharks game was to win and be confident. We haven't had that with you in the crease yet. We need something that we can rely on, and we have it. And if it's not you, it could be you that's being dealt out of here. We'll keep Kakkonen.
I was just going to say that if Kakkonen plays, if this is a scenario, Kakkonen goes well against Seattle, you throw Eustace back out there. Hey, do it again. He plays well against Utah. Do they go, hey, Georgie, it's been nice, but we gotta put you. Who the heck knows at this point? I know I cannot see that happening at this stage in the season, but I'm just going to be kind of watching how the Avalanche are going to navigate this with these 3 goals and how they're going to pick what 2 it's going to be. I mean, you got to think it's going to be Georgie, and how are they going to pick who the backup's going to be? Because you've had a little bit longer road with Annunen, and with Kakkonen, obviously you just got him. So you're only going to give him the 1 game and then make the decision on him. And if he plays well in that 1 game, already give up on Eustace, who you kind of, had a bigger expectations for, which he could still play into. Man,
hockey's fun.
Man, it's crazy. It's crazy. All right, let's wrap it up there, because we could probably go for another half hour just talking about goalies. It's fascinating stuff. we'll see. We'll see what happens, who's going to start in this game. And we're going to be here tomorrow talking all about it. So let's see if the Avs can get 3 in a row. That would be wonderful. Get right back into the thick of things. So it's going to wrap it up for today. Thank you, everybody, for tuning in and making this your first listen. Always appreciated. For Mr. Shaggy Von Doom, Kyle Sullivan, and the birthday boy, Junior Von Doom, I am Chris Maselli. This is the Locked On Avalanche podcast. You just made it through 24 hours, people, where Sidney Crosby is one day closer to being a Colorado Avalanche sweater. Maybe he can play goal.
He could.